country town of Breaux Bridge, and we're sending over 30% of our kids to the Ivy Leagues, baby.
Coming here and seeing people get accepted into Stanford, Yale, Wesleyan, Princeton, it's like, dang, this is really possible.
And media coming in and out, and they want to know about like the secret sauce of T M Landry.
You have no schedule.
So whenever I first came here, I was like, what is this? It's not a normal school.
Remember, you control your own destiny. I love you, you're out of here.
He does everything to get us to college.
You have to put in hours upon hours.
What the hell?
I have practically a whole new family.
We work our asses off. It's like boot camp.
Oh, we're not raising sheep here. We're raising the wolves. I am somebody.
A lot of people had an image of the school being perfect. And it wasn't perfect.
Stop. All that I care about is winning.
When you were at T M Landry, did you yourself see any instances of abuse?
I am somebody.
Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that wants to shed a light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. Today we have a very special guest with us about a very, very interesting, deep, thoughtful movie. The movie is called Accepted, and the director is Dan Chen. Welcome, Dan Chen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Isaac Smith and Aighty London are with us, and they are the subjects, two of the subjects of this movie, two of the students who went to the school we are going to talk about. So let's start from you, Dan. Tell us about the school, which school we are talking about, and why did you decide to embark in this film? Because it's a challenging situation.
Absolutely. So the school is called T M Landry, and we had heard about the school. When I say we, the filmmaking team, we had heard about it at around the same time that most of the people around the country were hearing about it, because T M Landry had recorded their students getting accepted into Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton, these other Ivy League universities, a predominantly Black and brown and minority school in rural Louisiana. And so they were getting a lot of press on Ellen, on Steve Harvey, on Good Morning America.
Yes.
And so I was working at a small media production company, and we were interested in telling, positive stories about young people, positive stories that kind of challenge conventional thinking and broaden people's horizons. And so we contacted the school and basically asked, could we visit and see if you and we have any interest in doing a long form documentary here in which we would follow your next class of students through their college admissions process. And so the long story, very short, is that we met Aighty and Isaac and other seniors that we ended up following in the film. And the filmmaking team, we were like, all right, we're in this for the long haul. We'll keep on coming back and kind of hopefully tell the story of the school year through their eyes.
Thank you so much. And to introduce yourself, tell us about what you did before. I usually introduce people, but I want you to talk because it's three of you. Otherwise, I pick up too much time myself.
You mean introduce each of us? Or
yeah, what you've done before.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, I grew up in a small town called Manhattan, Kansas. It's a town of like 50,000 people. I started making movies to honestly make friends with people and connect with people since I was 14 years old. And so a big part of it that actually ended up paying off, I guess, in this movie is when I was filming my friends in high school, I'd always wonder why our lives felt so real, and the lives that I saw of teenagers on TV and in the media always felt so fake and sensationalized, and written by adults that didn't get it. And so, I then went to USC Film School. I met a lot of the people that I ended up working with now, and I've always been interested in telling coming of age stories. And so this, to me, fundamentally is a coming of age story about young people going through an intense period of time and coming out of it stronger and wiser and different, right? And changed forever. But part of that interest from the beginning was like, I want to see the story through their eyes and have their voices be the center of it, because so much news media attention was being put upon the school. They had a very charismatic founder of the school who was kind of telling their stories for them as well. And kind of my priority was, no, let's hear it from, the students themselves, because they're at the center of it.
Thank you so much. And let's go to the lady here. Shall I call you Aighty or Aja?
Aighty.
Aighty.
Yeah.
Tell me
For
about
me-
you, Aighty. And your beautiful cats. I'm a cat person too. I love cats. Love them.
They're just being kittens together. They're brothers.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
For me, I guess my background is, as you know, I'm a former T M Landry student. And from T M Landry, I have grown into being a musician. Now I perform around town, around the country, thanks to Accepted. And that's really all I do. I'm a full-time animal parent. I have 12 animals in my house, including 1 bird, 3 cats, 4 dogs, 5 guinea pigs, and a bunch of schools of fish right here, as you can see.
Yeah.
And that's really my entire personality. I'm social media mogul now. That's all I really do.
Wonderful. And I remember from the movie, you said you wanted to become a marine biology.
I did actually. So the reason
I've always
why
wanted to be.
I wanted to be a marine biologist for so long, only because of the fact that I'm actually allergic to all animals that have fur. So anything that walks, yes, I have completely desensitized myself at this point. But marine biology was always my passion because of the fact that science, math were my strong suits, and animals were something that I wanted to pursue. But I know with my allergies and everything, as a kid, it just became, you should just go to the ocean and delve with the animals instead of on land. And now I actually have completely become, like
And
half
your
a veterinarian in my home.
allergies have disappeared.
Yes, that's what happens when you expose yourself.
Thank you. And Isaac, I know that your brother went to the school, and that's the main thing that inspired you to go also to the school. But tell me a little bit about your background in the little town you come from. And
So I guess I was supposed to be from a small town called Fort Sulphur. There's a population of probably 1,200 people, 1,500 people. Hurricane Katrina happened, so moved to New Iberia, and then quickly moved to Lafayette. And I've lived here in Lafayette, Louisiana for ever since I think 2007 or 2006. And it's really nice here. I hate the weather, but the people are great here. And ever since I left the school, I'm at my local university, UL, University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I'm an engineering student in mechanical engineering, and I'm part of our racing team. And that's pretty much, there's not too much to me. I mean, I like cars. I've always liked engineering. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing now.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Dan, what struck you about the school? And why, as you told me before, because you're interested in coming of age stories, but why that school in particular?
The school had a spotlight on it. I think specifically because of societal attitudes about what Black students can achieve and what they have access to, right? And so, you know, at first coming into the school, it's kind of like, what does it feel like to flout societal expectations, you know, to kind of bat above what your perceived weight is. And so that was something that was interesting to me. Like, you know, it's not the exact same experience at all, but, you know, growing up as a minority kid in like mostly white Kansas, not a lot of us do filmmaking, not all of us get into creative jobs. And so like relating to that aspect of like, okay, I relate to the idea of being a kid and trying to do something that people maybe don't expect you to do. That was something I connected to. And then obviously, I think there's also, it gets even more complicated than that because, you know, the story of the school gets more complicated than it initially was. And I think there are a lot of
Don't say anything now. We're gonna.
I won't say anything now.
We're gonna
yes,
get.
But even without that, knowing that there's something bittersweet about, let's say you go to a school like T M Landry, where they say, all right, be expected to work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. You don't have time for any other activities. And isn't that kind of bittersweet? Because maybe you're working harder and you're working longer for some opportunities that other kids get without putting in that kind of time, just because they know people or they have certain kinds of resources or access. And so I think from the beginning, there were things to interrogate. And I was mainly just interested in the emotional and genuine experience of just what a T M Landry student's life is like.
So Aighty, tell me how you felt when you first arrived in the school and you found yourself in this totally different surrounding in which, as Dan was saying, you were really asked 200% from yourself.
Honestly, I was amazed. I really walked in expecting the greatness that I was presented. Honestly, with the amount of work and effort you were expected to put in, I expected nothing but the best from what it was because of the amount of effort that we did put in and the amount of time that it took to do these things and the experiences we lacked. Dan talked about it earlier, but when it came to prom, sports, things like that, these were not things that we got to experience as T M Landry students because we were completely involved in our academics. And for me, I felt like it was beautiful. I really felt like it was something that could give us as Black students an entire new perspective of the schooling system as a whole.
I totally agree with you about that. I went to a school where they asked a lot from me too. But you said something that really struck me is at a certain point you said, I love this place so much because I have a family again now.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So TM Landry as a whole, our entire motto was that it is a family. That is why we're here. We do this for each other and we are going to prosper together. That is what the entire ideal of TM Landry was. We had family graffitied on our walls because every morning we would tell each other, I love you in 16 different languages. And that was our family. We ate, slept, and worked at TM Landry. Mike literally used to tell us that the only reason we went home to our parents was to sleep and that we were not their kids anymore. So for us, like the people we were around was our family. We were there 24/7 with the same people every single day, working just as hard as each other. And it never faltered. And still to this day, I mean, even Isaac, I mean, we're connected at the hip. Like for the rest of our lives, we will be family, you know?
Isaac, the same questions to you. How did you feel when you first got there? First, tell me about your brother experience there and what pushed you to go to the school.
So when my brother Raymond, he's always been an extremely intelligent person, but I think it was his junior year of high school, he really wasn't motivated to do like a lot of the work that he was getting in high school. And so my parents decided to put him in TM Landry. as an alternative form of education. And he got there and he seemed to really like it. He seemed to really like the idea. And after he graduated, I was running into a few issues, and my mom felt like it would be a good environment for me to go. Definitely one of the harder parts about going to the school was the fact that pretty much every year I had been involved in sports and extracurricular activities. And so I remember I was very upset in my last track meet. And once I got to the school, I mean, that subsided pretty quickly because I spent a lot of time focusing on myself. That was a big thing at the school, was self-learning, self-teaching. So I spent a lot of time picking up where I was lacking and helping other students. That was probably my favorite part of the school, was just being able to help other students. And that idea is what really kept me going at the school, is that it wasn't about myself.
Yes.
It was building something more for other students, for other people in the future. We were helping to build up something that can be given to other people, that can be given to different areas. You know, it wasn't just about me. And that's what really kept me there, what really drew me into the school initially.
And did you find that when you got there?
I did. I did. Whenever I first arrived at the school, I mean, my colleagues, I knew a couple of people beforehand, like Aighty, I knew Aighty before, a couple other students, but I mean, I took on to the class fairly well. I got really close to a lot of the younger students that I taught on a day-to-day basis. And it really did feel, because of the very small class size and the emphasis on teaching your colleagues, I really did feel a connection to the other students.
So from the movie, I gathered that until then, everything was really good for all of you, that Mike was pretty hard on everybody. But as I said before, I went to a school in London when the first time that I said to the teacher, to the professor, I'm sorry, but I didn't understand what, I was an interpreter school. And I was supposed to listen to a speech and then give it back in Italian. And I told her, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I didn't understand enough. And she looked at me and she said, if you don't do this now, you can leave tomorrow. Do it. And you know, when you feel like that in front of the class, you feel like going into a hole and disappearing. And I did. It was okay. It was something. But had I not had that push, I wouldn't have known that even when you think you have nothing, you still have something. So I think that's what Mike is trying to do from your students. So now we come to the point where something really pretty bad happened after having been invited everywhere to present the school as a model, because 100% acceptance into universities, of which 30% into Ivy League schools. And then everything changes after an article from the New York Times. Tell me about that, Dan.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I wonder if these two have a more close to the experience perspective on it, just because they were at the school or close to the school. Yeah, of course. But
sorry.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, basically what happens is while we're there, when as the school year is unfolding, the New York Times releases a very detailed, very in-depth expose interviewing, more than a dozen members of the community, students, parents of students, going into allegations of fraud, admissions fraud, academic fraud, as well as mental and physical abuse at the school. And so this article is published late November 2018, and I think it kind of tears the community in several different directions, and all the students and families are kind of wondering what they should do next, as far as what does this mean for my child's college career? What does this mean for my academic future? And so everyone is now forced to confront certain harsh realities and also decide what they're going to do next.
Okay, now I would like to ask you both. When you heard this, when you read this article, what was your first reaction? the first immediate reaction? Hi, Aighty.
My first reaction was we were actually on a group FaceTime call, like me and I'd say probably 5 former students, some that were in college, some that had just left the school. And honestly, all we were doing was gasping. It was honestly appalling that anybody had said the things that we were all thinking. It was a bit confusing also because none of us were expecting it. I honestly think that our genuine reaction was just shock. And like none of us really knew how to proceed, honestly, especially the people that were already in college now having to explain to their administrators what really happened. For some of us, we were lucky enough to not have been in the situation that they were, but for people that were already in school, it was a rough time, honestly. Like explaining and basically proving your worth and your work ethic while being completely shat on with your whole high school experience. It was honestly crazy. It was jarring. That's what it felt like. And for years, I know we had all been talking about what was really going on in the school, and people in our community and around us thought that we were joking. So whenever it came out, it was like, oh, you weren't joking. Like, oh, this was a serious problem. And the whole community just kind of shifted. And it was really a weird time, honestly.
Same thing to you, Isaac.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't awake whenever the article dropped. I think I read it that morning. I was awake, and I mean, you might know that my brother spoke in the article, and somebody called me, and they were saying like they were upset that my brother like talked about anything, and they were wondering since like because I had woken up late, just it was a coincidence. I had woken up late and I was late for school that day, and they thought that I wasn't going because I was like in on it and everything.
Oh my God.
And I mean, and I showed up to school and I was like, I mean, I'm not Raymond's gatekeeper. I mean, he can do whatever he would like. And yeah, I guess that confusion was cleared up pretty fast, but it was pretty shocking whenever the article dropped. I mean, I guess it was kind of a relief in a way, just because there were times whenever I was wondering what really was going on, and that I had a feeling that something fishy was going on. And I guess this kind of helped me know, like, okay, I'm not the only one that feels like this, you know? But at the same time, it was like, where do we go from here? What's the next move? What is Mike going to do? What is he going to make us do? That was what was really going on in my mind, is what are we going to do next? I had a lot of questions.
So the question I had prepared for you now falls short, because I had prepared this question. Do you believe you were influenced by media to look for something you didn't notice? No.
No.
I think we all knew the whole time. Actually,
you knew what? That he
day.
was faking some grades or some things, or there was physical abuse? Because this is two very different and very separate things, one of which to me is extremely serious.
We definitely knew that there was physical abuse happening. No doubt about it. We knew that that was happening, and we were told that the people that were receiving that, their parents were okay with what was happening. Whether that was true the entire time is beyond me, because none of us would have known that. But the transcripts and everything, we did understand that Mike made our transcripts, but he did tell us that we were accredited. When I first started, I know for me at least, I was always under the impression that although we were curating our transcripts, it wasn't that it was false, because we were still putting in the work and doing the things necessary for these classes, we deserve the grades that we got. Beyond that point, though, none of us realized that our diplomas would be fake to that extent.
So this, I didn't understand this, that the diploma would be fake, because I'll just throw it in there. During that period, there was a big scandal of this college admission scandal of people, very famous people who had paid a lot of money to get their kids into colleges. So when I see that it was touching the transcripts and so on, I don't see anything wrong in it personally in that context. Okay, when we know that happens, and when we know that wealthy people have always had an advantage to go to college in a country where you have to pay that amount of money to go to college. I come from a country where public universities are really good universities. It actually usually better than the private schools, because the private school, we say, if you need to go to the private school, is because you're not good enough and you have to pay to go to school, okay? So this is where I come from, right? So to me, that it retouched this and so on is not so appalling, because much worse was happening, as we saw later. So what did you think? What the question that I asked, you believe that you were influenced by that, by the media, or you really felt these things? And you now regret leaving the school, both of you?
I don't regret leaving the school at all, just because I don't believe in participating in things that I don't feel are justified, you know, or things that are wrong. I don't believe in participating in them. And I feel that if something is good, if there are good things within something of a whole, that doesn't mean that the rest of it is also good or true. Good. You have to learn how to separate those things. The overall situation was bad. It was not something that I wanted to be part of, even though good things had come of it, and good things can still come of it. It's not something that I wanted to participate in, because the overall thing was bad and it wasn't truthful. And going back towards whether or not I was influenced to look for things that weren't there, I mean, I feel like there were questions that I had. There were questions that I had, and the article echoed those questions that I had and started leading me in direction like, okay, I should be asking these questions to other people other than Mike Landry, you know, because obviously he wasn't the most truthful person to us or anybody. Answers changed all the time. So.
All right. One thing that he said when this attack started was that we were never attacked before when the school wasn't doing so well and we weren't getting all these college admissions. Now that we are doing so well, we are attacked because we are putting into question the white establishment, the white status quo. Do you think there is
I don't think he was wrong in that. There is a lot of truth in what Mike said. I cannot lie about that. The ideals of the school were completely correct. The process of how Mike handled these things is where things went wrong. And I genuinely believe that what he was feeding us is not what the problem was, because he was not wrong. The chance he was giving to Black kids was genuine. And what he was talking about how the media attention is what brought in the questions, that's not wrong. Before then, it was the kids were just going to local universities and things like that. And it did bring in a lot of heat whenever people started going to Ivy Leagues and going out of state and stuff like that. So he's not wrong. And the things that he does say in the meetings and about how he spins why you should be at T M Landry is not wrong. He puts up actual facts and ratios about how Black children are treated in the school system, but the way he treated what information he gave us is the problem, honestly.
Isaac?
I
Only
think that
1 minute and a half left.
okay. I mean, I think that it can be called into question whether or not the media attention was because we were Black students. Because if there is a school where damn near every student who in the graduating class is going to an Ivy League, and Mike is doing interviews every other day, he's promoting the school all over the place, and there's students talking all over the place. You're asking for attention. It's a recipe for disaster if you're doing something wrong behind the scenes. And I think that him putting so many eyes on the school is what led to Mike's downfall. People are going to ask questions. People want to know if you're really in there for education and actual progress in the world of education. People are going to ask, how are you doing it? And once people started asking, how are you doing it? Mike wanted to back off. He didn't want to say everything. And when people did start talking and did start alluding to the things that were truly happening in the school, then people had questions, actual questions that should have been asked a long time ago, whether or not the school was filled with Black or white students, I feel. Yeah.
Okay, one last word. What would you like the viewers to take out of it, the three of you? Dan, please.
You know, we've talked about a lot of things on this episode today, and I think the main thing I want viewers to take away is to be able to question what they believe. You know, I think this movie holds a lot of truths in it, as spoken by these 4 students that were in it. And so, you know, anything you believe, I'm sure there's a counterpoint to it. I'm sure there's another way of looking at it. I just would love people to, you know, expand their worldview.
Wonderful.
Mm.
Aighty?
Go ahead, Aighty.
Go ahead.
I would say that echoing what Dan said, I mean, skepticism is your friend. If you feel something to be right and true, then you should do as much as you can to work with that and prove that it is. And when people ask questions, you should be able to answer those. You shouldn't have to back off and say, okay, I don't want to talk about it anymore. You should be able to say, okay, this is why it is. This is what I do. This is why I do it. You know?
Wonderful. Aighty?
I would say don't let the college that you go to determine your future. And don't place yourself in a box because of where you start in college either. Your perspective and your career path can always change, and be open to yourself growing in that manner. Don't hold yourself to something that you were stuck in as an ideal as a kid, just because that's what you wanted to do when you grew up. Because now that you're older, things can change, and that's okay, because life is flux and it's supposed to be that way.
I'm appalled. I think I'm talking to old souls here, not young people. You are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Go very, very far, and you're gonna reach everything you have in your mind that you want to reach, because you are beautiful, beautiful souls, all of you. I'm very impressed with the wisdom that you are showing, and I'm very impressed with the clarity of mind that you are demonstrating. Going through something like that must have been nerve-wracking and also very difficult to find yourself, to find the balance. So I really appreciate you being here and giving this wisdom and your understanding to young people like you, but also to older people like me. Thank you, Dan.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
to everybody. Thank you to our viewers. See you next time, 12:30 every Saturday. Bye-bye.